Welcome everyone to the American Overlander podcast. I'm your host, Will Fowler from Venture to Rome. Now, Venture to Rome is a video YouTube channel where we go on epic adventures, we do installs and rig modifications, and gear reviews and recommendations. So if you haven't already, head over to the channel, give it a watch, and if you like it, give it a sub. On this podcast, we go deeper into some of the subjects that we've covered on our videos. We go behind the scenes in some of those videos, and we interview movers and shakers in the overlanding world. So let's get into it. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to get into like our favorite overlanding routes in Idaho and Oregon-ish. But before we do, I just want to call out this really great hat that I'm wearing. If you're watching this on video, you can see this hat. It's a Wheeled Life hat. It's Wheeled Life, WHEELED, Life, LYFE.com. And it's a wheeling clothing company. So they're not sponsoring me, but they did send me a free hat, which I actually really like and have been wearing a lot lately.
And well, it's a very nice hat, and I would like one.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we'll see. I gotta get you one too. And what I like about Wheeled Life, number one, they reached out to me on Instagram and they just seem like nice, genuine people. And it's a small business. It's a startup. And anybody who knows me knows like I'm a sucker for small businesses and startups. And so if I can help in any way bring attention to this brand as they're just kind of starting up, then I want to, because it's high quality stuff. They sent Kate a sweatshirt that's really nice. And it's just about celebrating wheeling. So anyway, Wheeled Life. Again, not sponsored, but they did send me a free hat. And if they sent Chris a free hat, that would be awesome too.
That'd be much better.
All right, let's.
I like hats, especially free hats. By the way, Metal Cloak, you owe me a hat.
Metal Cloak does owe you a hat. That's right. Didn't they say that they were going to send you one?
Yeah, it's like when they bought the KMS Safari, and they didn't send me instructions. I was like, "Hey, I love your product," but there was no instructions, and they were like, "Oh, sorry," and I was like, "Could you send me a free hat?"
and they were like, "Yeah," and then they just
we'll send you a free hat. So Metal Cloak, if you're listening, I love your products, and this is not knocking you guys, but I like hats, and I need hats, and a free hat from Metal Cloak would be awesome, but also a free hat from Wheeled Life would be very cool too.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Well, that's like this, that method of life coaching called The Secret. You just got to put it out there in the universe, Chris. You just got to put it out there and then believe it's going to come true. And before you know it, you'll have a Metal Cloak hat and you'll have a Wheeled Life hat. I think that's going to happen.
Man, all my dreams would come true, Willis.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about the places that we went this year and our favorite places. I was looking at the list and it looks like, where is it here? It looks like in 2021, you and I went on 9 trips together. And I think that was like 16 nights. I think I had in more like 16 or 17 trips and 30 plus nights in kind of like the traditional overlanding season, which for us, I think we started in March and we ended in December. We didn't do anything in January or February last year. And so I'm hoping we can do some in January, February this year and maybe get in a few extra trips and we've
talked about that. Well, like in March was the Jarbidge trip, right?
Yes. So we're just going to go through maybe, I don't know how far we'll get, maybe 4, 5 top places that people should definitely go. And so we're going to talk about like the trip that we went on, what we liked about it, and then let's like rate it. Let's say like, okay, this is a trip for advanced people or beginners or intermediate, and just kind of talk about like who might be able to actually go on these trails. So, Jarbidge.
Oh man, that was such a great trip. So I think Jarbidge, like in the dry season, is pretty accessible by anybody.
Yep. Like
that has I would think that you like having all-wheel drive at least would be a big help.
It was really muddy.
But man, when we
in
went,
March. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
It was because there was still snow on the ground. Like, I mean, it was like, it was still just thawing out. And so it was super muddy. And depending on where you went, like if you were on an incline kind of, or, if you're ascending or descending, coming up and down a hill of some sort, there could just be a lot of water on it because it was all draining off.
Yep, definitely. And I think it's like important to say too, like if you have like all-wheel drive, if you still don't have like the right tires, if you don't have like at least all terrains, like probably I would not recommend any of these trips.
Yeah.
If you're just on
Yeah.
street tires, do not go on them, because you will slash a sidewall or something.
Before you go off-roading at all, do not go off-roading on like street tires, please, because it puts a strain on groups that have to come out to recover you. It makes a bad experience for you if you go out and you shred a tire, something goes wrong. I mean, I've seen these videos. You put yourself in
danger too.
Yeah. I watched this video of these guys who went out to the Alvar Desert in their Honda Civic, and lo and behold, they got stuck. And I remember they got out there. They didn't have traction
floor mats
boards. They got their floor mats and like sagebrush to try to get themselves unstuck, and they couldn't do it. I mean, they're out there for like 10 hours in the desert before a tow truck was finally able to get to them, which, if you know Alvar Desert, it's a good 4 hours from basically any civilization. So in any case, don't go out unless you have some basic equipment, self-recovery gear, at least all-terrain tires, and all-wheel drive really helps. So okay, we're going to preface all of this stuff with that. So that's our minimum. That's our beginner level.
Gotcha.
Okay. So Jarbidge, some highlights of Jarbidge. Number one, it's hard for me not to mention the saloon.
That's where my mind went to. I don't know.
It's the Red Dog Saloon. We're just going to start there. The Red Dog Saloon. If you're wheeling or overlanding, you got to go into Jarbidge, which is the most remote town in the lower 48. And I think that's like post office to post office. It's an old mining town in Nevada, right at the edge between Nevada and Idaho. So it's like South Idaho and Northern Nevada. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And it's up in the mountains, about 6,000 feet. And they've got the Red Dog Saloon, it's just an authentic saloon, and we just had a great time. But it's not just like hey, here's a bunch of crappy whiskey. It's like the owner really went to town. World class. Yeah, finding like very good. I remember he was telling me he was on the wait list for like 3 years for a couple Japanese whiskeys that they have to get through like the gaming commission or something like that in Nevada, or maybe the gaming commission has a lock on all the liquor. It all goes to Las Vegas or something like that. But it was really hard for him to get this stuff, and it was really great. And we just said, what do you recommend? We don't care. We don't care how much it costs. Just what do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, he's got such a great knowledge. Sorry, and that was like the first place where we like really got introduced to like the Japanese whiskeys, which we've been kind of into right now. But like the other thing too was like, the scotches too. I think we had like a Lagavulin there or something. It was just like the first time I'd heard about this Lagavulin, and it's always been way more expensive than I ever wanted to pay for. And we got some there, and it was. And I don't think
it was like your standard Lagavulin that you can buy at the liquor store. I think it was like 12 or 16 year age, like the stuff that it's hard to get from Scotland. So in any case, but the best thing about the Red Dog Saloon, I mean, the whiskey's fantastic, it's just so authentic. It's such an authentic vibe. And that was a real highlight. There's a jail there. It was kind of fun to walk through, but I wouldn't go there for the jail. I would go there for the saloon. But
call ahead to the saloon too, because it's on the weekends. They have prime rib, and we witnessed this, like where people were coming in specifically for the prime rib at the saloon, and they would folks would come in, have dinner, and then they would leave. And this place is in the middle of nowhere, and it's like in March. And it's because nobody else wanted to, they don't want to stay.
Yeah, and they were like driving into like Castleford, Idaho, just to have dinner.
Yeah. Like there was like a pilgrimage to this place, which we need to go back, because we, in a very moment of weakness or idiocy or something like that, we're like, I don't think we're going to get we're not going to get the prime rib. And we were worried, Chris.
We were worried that someone was going to take our camp spot, because it was such a good camp spot for how windy and cold it was, that we were like, you know what, let's bug out back
yeah.
to our camp spot and make sure that we have that for the group tonight. That's why we didn't stay. But if we're going back, dude, we're definitely doing prime rib. We're just gonna figure that out. Yeah, and if we go during like a more of a like non-muddy season, there'll be more places we could go do dispersed camping. We would have to be in a campground.
Yeah, man, Blick showed just showed us so many really cool spots, and we just scratched the surface, just like barely.
Yep. Ryan Blick was our guide. There. So Ryan Blick is a college friend of ours. He lives in Castleford, Idaho. He used to be the mayor there at one point. And he knows that area so well. He met us on the trail halfway out there. And I remember he was spotting us from like 10 miles away, and he got on the GMRS radio and he was like, I see you guys. We're like, who's that? He's like, keep driving, take a left. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he still that place like the back of his hand.
Yep. Yeah. So he's a great guy to have around. And okay. So the other thing about Jarbidge that I remember though is driving through the bombing range on the way out. Like there's something about airing down, and then there's a sign right next to you that says like, caution, aircraft could be dropping things from the sky that may explode as you're driving. Like, you know, take
was it something about like unexploded ordnance too? But don't approach unexploded ordnance.
Yeah, exactly. But it was specifically like they will be dropping things. And I talked to my father-in-law about this, who was a navigator in F-111s in the Air Force, and he used to train out there. They used to drop bombs out there, and he said, you know, being on the road is generally safe. Because they're not trying to hit the road, right? They know people are driving through that might be 10 miles off, but they do these maneuvers where they come in and they drop and they do this like swoop up. So like they'll come, imagine like flying towards the ground and then banking up, pulling up, and then at the arc of that pull up when they're you know gaining altitude, that's when they let the bomb go. So they're like slingshotting the bomb. It's like a move that they do where they sling it and it goes, and so they're like, sometimes they miss, you know, like sometimes they sling it.
It's a training. Mile. Yeah, it's a training. Yeah. Right. It's so sue me. Yeah. It's kind of like, like those World War II dive bombers, but they're not diving anymore. They're going up, and that sounds insane.
But probably safe. But that was like definitely a cool thing. And I remember
it's a bomb well. It's not meant to be safe.
We drove through there, and I didn't want to get the drone out because it's kind of like military airspace. I mean, definitely it is, but it's not. I don't think it's like a restricted zone. But I just played it safe. And so we didn't get any real shots of driving through the bombing range, but maybe if we go back, I'll check with them. I'll maybe send a request in or something, so we could fly the drone through there. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, but it's also pretty flat and just like sagebrush too. So
yeah. So then the trails are pretty mild.
Visualize that. Yeah, it's flat and sagebrush.
Yeah,
with the operator.
Right. Yeah, you'd think you could see them coming. Although they do like infrared kind of gun training as well. Anyway, we won't talk about that. But the trails were pretty mild, and that's because Ryan took us on mild trails on purpose, because he knew that how bad most of the trails were out there. They were in really bad shape because of the mud and the snow. And he did some checking a few days before, and a lot of them were just washed out with snow. And so we were going to go on a hard trail on our way out, but we had to scrap that because he like busted a drive line or something like that. And so we wound up just staying on the easy roads. But for people who are thinking about going out to Jarbidge, especially from the Boise area, basically go out to Bruno and kind of hit a dirt road and keep driving until you get into a canyon, and then you follow the canyon until you get to Jarbidge. There's kind of a road for everybody out there. I think there's definitely some technical driving out there, but the roads that we were on, I would say, were just general, relatively kept BLM roads.
Yeah, they were pretty well maintained. Well, and the other thing I just remembered too is they, like the week before, or even like a few days before we were there, there was like a family or an older couple or something that was in a minivan. Do you remember they were telling us about that?
No, I don't remember.
And yeah, there was like somebody out there in a minivan, and they were like, do not go this way, because I guess there's a way that you go up through Jarbidge and up and over to like Elko or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and like they tried it and they had to be rescued.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, they drove, like, you can drive through the town of Jarbidge
Hmm.
and keep going, and that's the road that goes up over a couple mountain passes. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's really open until like late June, July.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, I
But
think
it
it
was
was
something
March.
where, yeah, where people kind of noticed, like, hey, we think that they're probably in trouble or something.
Yeah,
And I could be getting the story wrong, but
they saw the
it was
minivan.
something
They saw
very,
the minivan go by, and they just like immediately called emergency services. They're like,
yeah.
okay,
They're
we got
like,
some
dude,
bad
yes,
decision making going on here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And none of these trails are really minivan rated. So
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's
I'm not knocking
Jarbidge.
minivans; they're very useful.
So Jarbidge was a great trip. That was an all guys trip. So that was kind of fun to just cut loose. We definitely cut loose on that trip a bit.
Yeah, our
There was a
buddy
lot of,
Lance, man,
yeah, Lance
he,
cut loose.
yeah,
There was a lot
like
of
his Tundra, yeah, he
yeah,
just, yeah,
people doing fun stuff with their rigs. There's certainly a certain amount of testosterone, but it was all
yeah, but
in good fun and good,
it, oh man,
gentlemanly type behavior. But there's
yeah,
definitely a little hoorah.
nobody was like, yeah, did anything like super dangerous or anything like that. But like, Lance has this Tundra with, it's an amazing build, and he's got like that icon, like stage 100
Stage
kit or something.
11, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just really cool to watch that thing shine. He just tore through this stuff and was able to just kind of rally through the mud and the snow, um and he just, yeah, that was probably one of my favorite parts of the trip, was just watching him just let loose. And um you kind of zen with being out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, same here. That is an awesome rig. It's got that iForce V8 in it, and it just hauls. It's just got so much power.
yeah.
Um, okay, so that was Jarbidge. Is there another one that comes to mind that you think was like, oh, that was like one of the most amazing trips?
Yeah, like another one that like really sticks out to me is the one that you, me, and the other Ryan took with our daughters. And it was funny because we kind of
Oh,
mentioned that it was like kind of like two trips in one. It was
yep.
you, me, and Ryan, and then our three daughters that are like, really like just hit it off. But that was the one where we went to historic Birch Creek Ranch,
Mm-hmm.
and from there took a really cool back way into three forks.
Yeah, into
And
Rome
I had,
first. We went into Rome,
yeah.
Rome Station, and
Hmm.
yeah, we drove. Yeah, we drove definitely. That was a cross country trek. We did not take the standard roads,
Yeah,
and we
and that was
saw
such,
just so much of the countryside out there.
yeah, and that was such kind of like a, I don't know, it was kind of a, in some ways like a bittersweet trip, because that's the one where you lost your drone,
Yep.
and we, you know, you were just on the side of a mountain looking for that drone, and Ryan and I were up there, and we're just kind of like,
He's not
man, I
gonna
don't know how
find
we're gonna find this thing.
it.
And
I
then like later
didn't
on,
find it.
no, didn't find it. It wasn't for lack of trying, man. And you kind of messed up your knee, and I'm glad that you're, healed up and everything. But so there was that, and then there was like so much mud. I've never seen
Yeah.
so much mud in my life. And
Dude, I'm interested that you chose that as a top trip, because that is not one of my top trips. I want to go back and do it better,
mhm,
because we went down there. Number one, I lost my drone. The first night and the first morning were magical.
yeah,
Like the weather was perfect. I mean, it just one of the best nights overlanding ever was that first night when we got down at Birch Creek
mhm,
Ranch. And like, I don't know, there's like 7 water crossings we dropped at 2,000 feet in
yeah,
less than 6 miles. I mean, it was really cool terrain, but it was pitch black. So like we were just like imagining what the cliffs and mountain ranges look
mhm,
like, but we knew we knew it had to be extreme because we're in the Owyhees, we're getting to the edge of them, coming
yeah.
down the river. And so
There's
there's all these
nobody
water
else there.
crossings. Nobody else there. It's totally deserted.
Yeah,
But there's an airstrip down there that we camped basically right on the airstrip, to to the left of it, just in case. But it was kind of the airstrip
yeah,
area. Nobody down there. Beautiful night, beautiful morning, and then everything started going wrong
yeah,
for me. and for you. So first,
Yeah.
let me just walk through the things that went wrong. First, drone. I forgot to turn my optical avoidance on. I was trying to be really, get a super epic, cool shot. Mm-hmm. And I just my ego got the better of me. I was just like, I know what I'm doing. And whammo, into a rock. The drone hit so hard that I think it like dislodged the battery from the drone or just shorted it out because there was no signal, no connection, nothing. I had the last GPS spot, but that could sometimes that's like 50 feet away. And when it's on the side of a mountain, who knows? So we searched for it for an hour and a half. I like busted my knee. I jumped from a rock to another rock and my knee hit funny, and I'm middle-aged now, so I can't do that crap. And as the trip went on, my knee got worse and worse and worse and worse. And so I was trying to get out of the rig to shoot, to get these shots of us going through the mud and stuff. And I remember I'd get out and it would just be so painful, but I was trying to be tough for you guys. So I was making all these grunting noises. I was like, and you're like, you okay? I'm like, oh yeah. And I was fine. It just hurts.
Here comes old man Willis.
But it hurt so bad. And then, so then we get to Rome, and I haven't released this video yet. So I don't know when this podcast is coming out, whether it's going to be before or after the video. So if it's before the video, it's spoiler alert. We get to Rome and like, they're like, you can't go that way. Cause we had this route that we're going to take in that we were really excited about. And we talked to a local and he was like, no way. He's like, you won't make it.
Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that road's not there anymore. It's washed out. He's like, I don't care how good off-roaders you are. He's like, you can barely get an ATV through there.
Yeah. And so, I didn't want to listen to him, but we did. We took the easy way in. And then that night we're making dinner and my freaking stock pot decides to just break. So I have this amazing and expensive, by the way, collapsible stock pot that I've been like raving about for like all year long. I've been raving about the stock pot. And so then I go to cook Mexican street corn in it. And granted, I think I was filming something with you or I got distracted and I was kind of heating up the oil and I had the burner on too high and it got pretty dang hot in there. But when I was washing it afterwards, after everything was done, I was washing it out and I just pressed on the side of the silicone where like the collapsible part of it, and it just detached all the way around. It was just like and totally gone. And I was so mad. My knee hurt so bad. I mean, this is on camera. I actually say like, this sucks. I'm just going to go look at the stars. That was like basically like me giving up.
But I'm looking at the stars, but I'm not going to enjoy it.
I gotta do something else. Everything here sucks. I'm gonna look at something. And then the next day we go out wheeling some more. And not only did we like have to turn around because we found out that certain people don't open the road for off-roader or don't open the gates for off-roaders, which is cool. It's their property. They can do that. But you found out that your Jeep had started to break. Yeah.
So Ripley, she's not a young lady anymore, and she's about to hit the 100,000 mile mark, and it hasn't always been the easiest. And so like the day before we were like cruising through just miles, I don't know, like 40 miles of mud.
Yeah.
Just mud pile,
easily puddle 40 miles.
Mud puddle.
I think it was more like 60 miles of mud actually.
Oh yeah.
It was 40 miles to get to Rome Station. And it was another, it was like 20 miles. We had to go 20 miles on pavement and then another 25 or 30 miles into Three Forks.
Yeah. It was to the point where like, I never thought we would say this, but we got tired of like all the water crossings and all the mud puddles. Yeah. I was like, hey, Nora, look, there's another mud puddle. She's like, oh, okay. She wouldn't she wouldn't even look up from her book. She's like, just, okay, that's cool. Whatever. Yeah. And so we're just like cruising through. Anyway, so, and I, like, as we got into camp, I had heard kind of a noise, but then the next day after Will's stock pot fiasco, which was just a nightmare.
Well, we also, I will say, but you did cook carne asada on the s'mores cookers, which was pretty cool. On the s'mores, that was pretty cool. That was a win for you. I was racking up the L's, but you had a couple wins other than your.
Yeah, so that worked out really well. So, I cooked dinner with using s'mores forks, and it was delicious and it was great. But the route that you were talking about, like going in And we came across like some hunters, and they were like, yeah, there's a guy down there with like at the gate actively telling people like, hey, you know, you got to turn around and head back. In the meantime, the noise that Ripley was making was only happening in 4-wheel drive. And so we're doing this, not an easy trail, uphill, and it's slick. And
it was technical. That was a technical trail. I would, you know, I would rate that as intermediate to expert.
Yeah. And it was pretty rough. And I did it in 2-wheel drive. And, I was impressed because every time I would like stick it into 4-wheel drive, it would just make this god awful noise. And so later on, I found out that I've been kind of like on borrowed time. So if you lift your Jeep over like 2.5 inches, you need to get yourself a new front drive line with a double cardan joint or a high angle. I believe it's pronounced Rizeppa joint. I'm not sure exactly, but
that's fancy.
Yeah, it's
sounds very Italian. Sounds like an Italian.
It does. Rizeppa.
Pasta.
Would you like a Rizeppa?
Would you like a Rizeppa with your Chianti?
Yes. What goes well with a Rizeppa? Chianti. Yes, a fine Chianti. But anyway, like, so it was funny because I took it into Dennis Dillon, and they're really great. But they were like, "Hey, so who put this lift on? Because they should have told you about like the drive angle up here, and you're lucky it lasted how long?" And I was like, about 60,000 miles. And they're like, "You're lucky like we wouldn't have guessed it would have lasted like 10,000, let alone 60." And I was like, you guys are the ones that did it. And they're like, "Oh,
whoops.
Okay." And so anyway, they would cut me all sorts of discounts and stuff for the Mopar double cardan front drive line, which, you have a 3-inch lift, don't you?
I do. I need to check mine out. Yeah. Mine doesn't have as many miles as yours on it, with that high of a lift. But I need to at least get there. You can at least get like a Terraflex bracket or something, right?
Yeah, that's the Terraflex. They do like a high angle Rizeppa joint. It's just like a lot of Rizeppa.
I think whenever you refer to it, you have to say Rizeppa from now on. Hey, would you please do that?
Forget about it. Anyway, yeah. So, but that trip was just kind of one thing after another. And at the same time, though, man, like that Birch Creek Ranch was just amazing. And then all the mud and water crossings, and our kids were like, like so happy, and they just got along great, and just had a blast. And then, man, ending up at Three Fingers, or not, sorry, Three Fingers, but Three Forks. There's a lot of threes here, but ending up at Three Forks, man, that place just cannot put a smile on your face. It's just so gorgeous. And it's something that we keep returning to. We keep finding ourselves back there. And at the same time too, we there's just like a lot of area out there that we haven't explored yet. Yeah. And I can't wait to do it.
We haven't really even explored the mountains, the Owyhee Mountains proper. Three Forks is like Three Forks Recreation Area, which is out in the Owyhee Canyon lands, is like the heartbeat, I think, of the Owyhee Canyon lands, because it's where all three rivers come together into one. Mm-hmm. And it's just spectacular. The river has just cut through, eroded the rock, over whatever millions of years. And it's just super spectacular. So I would not put that one on my top list because of all the bad things that happened, but I do want to go back and spend a lot of time out there on the Canyonland side of the Owyhees. This is easy for me. Like maybe my favorite trip all year was Hell's Canyon. Hell's Canyon is me. It was our families together, and we brought Hicks, our trailer that we have since flipped and are repairing and making better than ever. But we drove up the side of Hell's Canyon. We stayed on the rim of Hell's Canyon. We stayed on the Emnaha River, then up on the rim of Hell's Canyon, and then back deep in the woods on a felt very wild lake. And it wasn't
way back there.
yeah, I won't say that it wasn't like the best of Hell's Canyon, but it was pretty dang good. I'm convinced we can find more adventure and more amazing places out there, but it was A plus, A plus, A plus. Like the place on the Emnaha River, I think we wound up staying at Coverdale Campground right on the river. And we stayed in the campground. I think because there were people in the dispersed campsites that we wanted to stay in. Like we looked at a couple and we didn't think we can get down there. Then we looked at a couple more and there's some people in there. So we went to the campground and there was nobody, literally there was nobody. We were the only people in the campground. And so we were on the river and it was beautiful. And next night on the rim, next night on the lake. And, you know, we made the campsite on the lake work for us. I would say it's not really like, don't bring a big convoy in there. It's barely made for one rig. We got two in there. But we were really careful.
Hook the trailer and
yeah. We were super careful with how we did it. So we didn't like, you know, get off the trail or anything like that. So, but man,
and don't go swimming in it.
Okay, yeah, the lake was full of leeches.
Yeah, it's got leeches in it.
Yep. And there was mountain lions that night that we heard. There's moose that we heard in the lake. We drove up. We tried to go over the top of that mountain pass near the lake that we stayed in, and we hit snow, got got real stuck.
But that was messing around though. Like, I mean, we would get you unstuck, and you would just, you know, it was a safe time to kind of mess around with some recovery gear
for sure, but we couldn't get through. Like we couldn't continue on. We had to turn around, and I lost this is a recurring theme for me as well. I lost an SD card for my camera with 128 gigabytes of footage on it.
Oh no.
So the video that we made, I think it turned out really great, but like there was so much more footage, like hours of footage that didn't make it into that video. And speaking of the Owyhees that we just finished up, you know, not only did I wreck my drone and lose some of that footage, I had a hard drive crash on me at home here.
Oh,
and
you're cursed, Will.
All that footage is gone. I was able to recover some of it, but I'm not sure the GoPro footage is coming back. But I'm going to look at it here soon to see if I can even put together a video for it. We'll do something, because it was definitely a memorable trip. And some of those drone shots of Birch Creek Canyon are just priceless. So anyway, sorry. So yes, I constantly screw up this filming thing over and over again.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for years, Will.
Yeah. So Hell's Canyon for sure. And I cannot wait to go back. And I think Hell's Canyon is good like all year round. You know, you can even go in the winter and have an awesome time. I know Primal Outdoors goes in the winter a lot. There's just so much. It's so big. We have the Owyhees, which is like 10 million plus acres. We have Hell's Canyon, which is probably about the same. I don't know I'll look up what it is, but massive area with roads all the way through it. We have the Central Idaho mountains, massive. I mean, we're just so
Boulder,
blessed.
White Clouds, Sawtooth.
Yeah. Copper Basin. Which, by the way, is next on my list. Copper Basin. You weren't on this trip, but you will definitely be on this trip next year. We're going back to Copper Basin, and we are going to have a great time. That place, Copper Basin. So Copper Basin is just out of Ketchum, Idaho. It's between Ketchum and Mackay, Idaho. The Pioneer Mountains run in between. Mackay and Ketchum are kind of in the valleys that are on either side of the Pioneer Mountains. And it's just like a playground in there. It's just so amazing. And the terrain is so cool. It's so beautiful. The mountains are, for Idaho, are very high. They're all like 10,000+. They're 10 to 12,000 foot peaks all around you in every direction, with the Lost River running through it. I mean, God, the first place Kate and I stayed was just some little canyon we pulled off Park Creek, I think it is. And we found this little dispersed spot right on top of this canyon, this small canyon, but not a canyon, but just like a little valley. And we're just kind of up on the ledge. Deer were like hanging out in the valley. We're watching them all night. I mean, it's just so nice. It's almost like Sun Valley's version of overlanding. It's so nice and just epic everywhere you look. So we have to go back.
You need a more expensive rig, Will.
Well, that's one that you could probably drive a two-wheel drive on. The roads are not only they're not only flat, but they're oiled.
Yeah.
Because it's that's how you get from Mackay to Ketchum. Yeah. For a lot of the year, that's the through road between Mackay and Ketchum instead of driving all the way around. So they're in such good shape that that you do not need a heavily modified off-road rig to go there. However, there are plenty of trails to go on with your heavily modified rig. But if you're just driving through, if you're just into the campgrounds, I still recommend all-terrain tires because you never know when you're going to catch a rock on the side and bust a sidewall. But we did see minivans up there.
Yeah, definitely. And there's just like so many like these really cool like little towns that are just connected by dirt roads. I mean, Atlanta and Yellow Pine and just, I mean, it can go on and on and on. And
I just released a podcast with Kate and I for the first time. It was the first time we were getting the same.
Which I loved.
Thanks.
That was such a great podcast.
It was really fun. It was really fun to do. I think we're going to do a bunch more. I think she really liked it too. But one of the things I talk about in there is like, there's this other world just beyond the normal world. It's just, if you're driving on the highway in Idaho and you look at the mountains, just imagine just on the other side of that peak is another world. And it's this infrastructure of dirt roads that connect all these places that like, it's a real thing. It's like another dimension. It's just, I get excited every time I talk about it because it just blows my mind. It's so cool. There's just so much to explore and people live out there, like people are, there's the Frank Church Wilderness in Idaho. People live on ranches where there are no cars. They have to riverboat in their supplies. And the nearest neighbor is, not kidding you, 30 miles away. There's a documentary on these folks that live out there. And it's like their daughter moved into the place 30 miles away and they'll walk there. They'll like walk, do a 30-mile walk to go see their daughter. They leave after breakfast and get there for dinner. And then they spend the night and they walk back. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Hardy folks. Yeah.
I mean, that's Idaho, man. It's pioneers out here. It's a bunch of pioneers out here.
Yep, definitely. It's a whole other world.
Yeah. So what's another one on your list? I just said two. I said Hell's Canyon and Copper Basin. What's the next one on your list?
Well, so I agree. Like, I think Hell's Canyon is my favorite too, for all the reasons that you stated. So I won't go, into that. Man, another one that I really liked was honestly, and it was another one that you're just going to kind of probably roll your eyes, because it was when the Jeep was getting its front drive shaft and with like the supply chain issues, like, so I had to take our Chevy Colorado, which is lightly modified.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But that is the Blacks Creek to Swan Falls. And I kind of, it's funny that I'm even saying this, because I kind of struggled with it for a little bit, because we were supposed to hit this huge snowstorm and we did get snow, but we
got a couple flakes of snow.
Yeah. I mean, there's some winter driving, but it was never, I wouldn't say it was never treacherous.
We had winter driving because there was already snow down on the road. I don't like, in terms of like the storm that came in, we got some flurries, but I don't think we got any real accumulation when we were driving.
No. And it honestly too, like, even though it was snowing, it never felt like it got particularly cold either. I don't think I was like ever really chilly. I brought my insulated like overalls and stuff like that. And I don't think I used them because I didn't need to do it. Yeah. And there's a section between, that Blacks Creek Road, and you just kind of go out into the middle of nowhere, which you'd kind of plotted this route to Swan Falls. And we were supposed to have a couple other buddies, but that were supposed to join us, but they couldn't make it. Yeah. They bailed.
They all bailed. If you're listening to this, guys, if you're listening to this, I'm talking to you, Lance, talking to you, Tim, talking to you, JP, talking to all the knuckleheads, Ryan, both Ryans, you all bailed, and we braved the storm and didn't get one flake of snow.
Yeah, not really. There were some flurries. There's a few wrong turns, but man, we were out there. And the thing is that the terrain wasn't particularly challenging, and it wasn't but we were out in the middle of nowhere.
Wasteland.
We're in the middle. Yeah, it was a wasteland. And that's the per word for it. And but we kind of knew where we were headed, like to Swan Falls. And if you haven't been there, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I'm in my wife's like Chevy Colorado, which, like I said, has been lightly modified. It's got a few things done to it, but it's not as confidence inspiring as, you know, as Ripley is. And I'm used to driving Ripley on a daily basis. And
I didn't plan the route based on you having a Colorado. I just planned the route on like, I think we can get from A to B.
Yeah.
Come what may.
Yeah. And it's the Z71, and it has the long box. And so it's a Colorado, but it's long. And luckily I had the ZR2 rock sliders that I got on it, because we actually did use those at one point.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
No, and broke
we might get in trouble.
Boards, and broke my traction boards. Yeah. But not even doing anything like crazy. We just
we're just trying to get from A to B, you know, and we just came up against some stuff that we needed them for, and unfortunately the angle was so
rocky.
Yeah, exactly. Cold, rocky, and it was just a good combination of angle and weight, and both of our traction boards snapped. You had your ARB treads, and I had my X-Bulls, and your ARB treads has a warranty on it. And so you send them a picture and they're like, yep, we'll replace it. That's legit claim.
So
X-Bull,
a shout out to them. Yeah. No.
X-Bull's like, they cost you $70. So you know, like just go buy some new ones.
Yeah. No, and tread was awesome. Like they were just like, yeah, hey, sorry that happened, and we'll send you some new ones. Just cut these in half. And I was like, oh.
Right. They want you to actually destroy the old ones so that you don't just get like a free new pair.
Yeah, on my IG account, I likened it to the end of Old Yeller, where the boy ends up shooting Old Yeller. I kind of felt that way a little bit, because those recovery boards, they have been such a godsend so many times. And I was like, okay. But anyway, so that trail, it was like a voyage from like just this epic, beautiful landscape through a wasteland to another epic, beautiful landscape.
Yeah. And so to set the scene for that trip, so the trip was the South Fork of the Boise River. So there's this big winter storm coming in. We wanted to stay relatively low elevation because we didn't want to be stupid about the storm. When I say big winter storm, they were projecting 50 to 60 inches of snow. And so we didn't want to get into a place where we were going to get so covered in snow that we would actually be stranded. And so we picked some lower elevation spots, which is why we adjusted our plan to go to the South Fork of the Boise River, which is about 3,000 feet. So we thought we might get, maybe we get 6 inches there. But we could probably get ourselves out of 6 inches. And the road there is pretty flat. It's very maintained, because it's kind of like the only way you can get into prairie from Boise unless you drive all the way around. And so then we were thinking, let's go lower elevation. And we didn't really know where we're going to go the second day. We kind of had an idea, but we were like, we felt the storm coming in that morning. We packed up camp really fast, and it did start to snow. And I was like, here it is. The storm's arrived. Let's get low. Like, let's go down to the Snake River. Let's get as low as we can. And just, if we get snowed on down there, we'll be fine. And so we just ad hoc created a route. Like, we literally pulled off the side of the road, and I think there's video of it, if it's not lost with my broken hard drive, of like us actually just being like, oh, I don't know, here, I don't know, maybe it can auto map it for us, and then we got into this quagmire of private property, and we had to just it was just a mess getting over.
We had
It
to
took
follow
forever.
power lines,
Power
like
lines,
not like just regular power lines, but those giant, whatever they're called, like the massive, I don't know. They just
a few times.
huge.
Yeah. We finally got through the private property, and then we had all this ground to cover to get over to the river. And it is weird out there. It's weird.
Yeah.
It is a wasteland.
You
because
come across weird stuff, like people, like, couches that people have shot up, or that they're actively shooting up. There's a car. There was a car that's like the trunk was open and it was deserted. And it was out in the middle. They were like, how did they get out here? Because it's like a Dodge Avenger or something. It was like, what is going on? Just
keep driving. Keep driving. Yep. Yeah. I'm not, that's
blood,
weird. That's weird enough that
we're just like,
normally I'd stop and ask if they need help. That's just weird enough that I'm like, I'm going to keep driving.
Yeah. But it was just out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around. It looked like it had been there. It obviously been there for a while.
It looked like it'd been there for a long time. I really thought if we walked over there, we're going to see like a dead body or something. That's the way it feels out there anyway. There's all these kind of ad hoc shooting ranges that people go out and shoot. Yeah. And then there's just like, we came across a few places where they just dump their trash in public land. And I know Primal Outdoors did I saw an episode he did where someone did this. He went to this trash where people had dumped their trash in public lands, and he like found the address, and he was like, I'm gonna go find this person and tell them to stop doing it. I think after he thought it through, he realized that wasn't the right person. But yeah, they just dumped trash out there. And so we drove all the way through that quagmire, got to the river. It was so windy that we tried to get down into the canyon, and it was pretty gusty. But that is the night that we shot the infamous Overlander hug video.
Legendary
Overland hug video, which if you haven't seen, go to the YouTube. It's a 1-minute spoof on us being alone for the first time, because all our buddies had bugged out. We realized that we'd never been on a trip alone together with no one else. And so we did this little spoof on giving each other a hug.
But
it's pretty funny.
To kind of chime in, because even though the terrain wasn't like that great and we broke our traction boards and things like that, I do think that that's probably why that was like one of my favorite journeys, was because it was just you and me.
Totally. It's almost like being by yourself. Like, when you're with your best buddy out there, and it's like, there's no pressure. It's like, we made so many mistakes, and it was like, we just kept going and we were having fun, and there was no pressure of like, oh, I wonder if the kids are getting hungry, or, we've
been driving for so long.
Yeah. Or
like, are you hungry? No. Okay. I'm not hungry either. Let's go.
Yeah. There was no pressure of any kind. And then we had 2 just really great nights hanging out at camp. Just really, really great nights. And oh my God, you cooked those Cornish game hens. Oh yeah. Those things. So
Lance, I had one for you.
2 of our
you bagged up.
2 of our top trips, Jarbidge and I don't know what we'll call this. We'll call it River to
Wasteland.
Swan Falls. Yeah, River to River. South Fork
Wasteland.
To the Snake. Yeah, Wasteland. Yeah, dead body trip.
Dead body wasteland trip.
Both of them had Cornish game hens.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir. That is a recipe that needs to go in a cookbook, because that is so delicious.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
So I think those are all good trips, man. I look back over the list, and there was so many. I mean, you did your whole Colorado thing. Kate and I did a bunch of stuff. We did 2 Central Oregon trips, like all the way across Central Oregon and back last year. And I know we're going to do it again this coming year. And so like, just just a ton of fun. The one thing that the regret that I have about 2021 in terms of overlanding is that there was 2 trips that I really wanted to do. I wanted to do a ghost town tour up by Yellow Pine, Idaho. We've never made it up to Yellow Pine, and it just drives me nuts.
We still haven't made that right when we first started. That's kind of a cursed trip, because that's the one where you slashed your finger.
Yep.
And we had to go into McCall, right? Because we were going to end up in Yellow Pine, and then we had to end up in like the Hazard Lakes.
Never made it,
and then
we haven't made it back.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to do it this year, and we didn't get that done. And then I want to do this loop that goes from Yellow Pine to Warren, Idaho, and kind of over across the mountains into Bergdorf and then back down into McCall. But I think we're going to hit a lot of that stuff when we do the Idaho Backcountry Discovery Route next year. And I just hope that it's open. Hope the
Wait,
roads
you mean
are open.
this year?
This year. Oh my God, it is this year. You're right. Sorry. Yes, this year. We are in 2022 now. So I think it's going to be a different year. So Overland Expo Pacific Northwest is happening in Bend. So I know we're going to do a trip over there to go to that. I mean, how could we not go? It's like going to be so close to us. And then
I've been complaining for years, like I can't do the Overland Expo West. I can't do the Mountain West or whatever one. And it's just like, and then all of a sudden it was just like, we're doing this other one, the Pacific Northwest and Bend. And I was like, okay, well now I have to stop complaining because I can do this one.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about something like that in like Ketchum. I think that would be a nice spot to have some kind of a festival of some sort. In any case, we're going to do that. Our buddy Nate Muller, who's got a great YouTube channel, he drives Tundra as well. He's got a company that does overlanding tours in Baja. So he's been talking about us getting down to Baja next year. So we're talking about longer trips because the backcountry discovery route in Idaho is 1,200 miles. That's that's 12 days at least in one trip. And then, if we're going to Bend, that's, it's at least a couple of days just to get there and back. And then, if we're going to Baja, geez, I don't know, it's 2 days, it's 14 hours at least, I think, to get down to San Diego before you even get into Baja. So there could be like this year could be different style of overlanding for us. Yeah.
More like longer expeditions.
Yeah. Like we've been doing mostly shorter trips, like really, weekend trips or extended weekend trips or, spring break and fall break type trips. Cause we've got the kids with us, but we might be doing more of those longer trips and fewer shorter trips next year, which I'm really excited for because honestly, it's a totally different challenge. I need to figure out fuel because I almost was really nervous about running out of fuel when we did our last Central Oregon trip. So there's a puzzle to figure out there.
Yeah, definitely.
We should talk about that in another podcast episode on what we're considering.
Long-term trip or something.
Yep. For fuel, because there's some really great options out there, but we both have kind of a different take on what we think would work best. And based on the setups of our rigs, where we can hold the weight and where we have the storage and all that stuff. So we should do a separate podcast on that. Anything else? Any other memorable moments of 2021 for overlanding for you, Chris?
Oh man. Yeah. Like you mentioned, I don't know if it was like overlanding, but we took did our big Utah, Colorado trip and finally made it into Ouray and down into Cortez. And that's something else, like, talking about like longer expeditions. There's just like so many areas out there that I would just love to explore. Especially Ouray, like our kids, well, not just our kids, us and our kids just like fell in love with that place. And we just, did some hiking and I would love to explore there. And man, Cortez, Colorado, I'd never had heard of it, but just like the history there is just amazing and it's beautiful and it's kind of strange. And so anyway.
So I don't know. I'm not really been to Colorado much. I'm happy that other people go to Colorado and I'm happy that other people go to Utah. Like my advice to all of you is to keep going to those places because Idaho is a wonderful place to overland. And one of the reasons it's wonderful is because everyone's going somewhere else.
Yeah. I agree 100%. So
cool, man. Well, this has been another fun conversation, my friend, and many more to come. So I just want to say thanks for being on and sharing your thoughts on our trips. Can't wait to start talking about the trips that we're planning and how we're going to plan them, do debriefs after the trips, and kind of share with everyone behind the scenes and just kind of what we're thinking as we go on these adventures, and then anything else that comes up along the way as well. So thanks, man. And thanks to all of you who are listening. If you want to connect with us, you can follow Venture to Roam on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can also follow Frontier State Overland on Instagram. Please join us, join the conversation, chime in, make inappropriate comments on our Instagram posts, and we'll respond in kind. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.